I found myself thinking recently, hey, what's a movie I really like that I haven't seen in a while and that contains some disability representation, either good or bad, that I'd like to talk about? The answer came rather instantaneously. Kubo and the Two Strings. This absolutely gorgeous stop-motion animated movie came out in 2016 when I was 17 years old. It was produced by Laika Entertainment, the studio that's brought us Coraline, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, and most recently Missing Link. I watched Kubo pretty soon after it came out, and already back then I loved it. As I said, this film is gorgeous. The music is fantastic, the characters are good, the magic is exactly my aesthetic. The story is heartfelt and gripping, but it does come with some negatives. I would love to sit here and tell you Kubo is that one-in-a-million movie with disability at the core of its story that doesn't fall into ableist tropes. But unfortunately, I can't do that. Now, before I go any further, I should make it clear that I am not blind myself. I am not speaking from the perspective of an audience member who had to sit there and hear this movie tell them, you are lesser. I am speaking from the perspective of someone who has been in that position, has heard that from other stories, and who is choosing to talk about this movie in particular because he personally liked it. So, what is it that Kubo does that's so bad? Well, let me first introduce you to Kubo himself. We meet him as a baby when his mother is fleeing from what we soon find out is her father and sisters. At the same time, we also find out that Kubo's grandfather has stolen one of his eyes. So far, so harmless. Villains in movies do shit for a multitude of reasons. At this point, we have no reason to think this is for any ableist reason. Not long after, we learn that if Kubo is found, the Moon King and his daughters will try to take him away from the mortal realm, though for what purpose we still don't know. Then with the introduction of Kubo's aunts, we find out that the Moon King covets Kubo's remaining eye.
Come, Kubo. Come to your aunties. No reason to be afraid, Kubo. We just need your other eye. Your grandfather admires it so.
We just don't know why yet. In fact, at this point, by the wording the sisters use, it seems to be more a case of twisted admiration. It's not until much later that we learn that the Moon King wants Kubo to join him in the heavens.
Why does grandfather hate me?
Oh, Kubo. He doesn't hate you. He wants to make you just like him. Blind to humanity. As I once was. Only then can you take your place beside him as part of his family. Cold and hard and perfect.
This is where the first alarm bell goes off. And, indeed, once we meet the Moon King, my fears were confirmed. He is blind, and his goal in blinding Kubo would be to remove Kubo's humanity, to make him cold and hard and perfect. So we're already stumbling headfirst into a disability as a signifier of morality issue, but then we get to the final fight and we have this darling little speech.
I'm not leaving. For every horrible thing down here, there's something far more beautiful. My mother saw it. So did my father. I see it. Even with just one eye.
Then I'll just have to rip it out of your head again, won't I?
If you must blink, do it now. I know why you want my eye. Because without it, I can't look into the eyes of another and see their soul. Their love.
Everything you loved is gone!
So, that's the thing. But But that's not all. That's not even the end of it. Oh no. The Moon King is defeated by Kubo's magic and turned mortal and loses his memory of who he is and where he came from, allowing him to start anew on Earth and, be the kind of person who doesn't steal eyeballs from babies. It's also implied that he will be living in the village he destroyed as the Moon King, and will care for Kubo as he always should have, as a kind and gentle grandfather. That's all well and good, and honestly a really interesting ending for the main villain of the movie. The issue comes in a small little side effect of his becoming human. He becomes sighted in one eye. It's kind of implied that, had Kubo not struck his other eye during the battle, he would have become sighted in both. This is not ideal. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's actively bad. Here, the movie is telling us, if you are this way, you are bad and you are lesser. You are less capable of compassion and of caring for your fellow man. Do I think it was the filmmaker's intention to essentially say that all blind people are cold and cruel? No, but that is unfortunately what the use of these tropes ends up communicating. To learn compassion and kindness, he must be granted sight. Mortality is not enough. He must see the world in its full glory, even if only through one eye. This happens a lot with disabilities in media. Being tied to morality in one way or another, being used as metaphors for something. Blindness, in particular, ends up being used as a metaphor for ignorance quite often. The thing is, disabilities aren't metaphors. They're real, and more importantly, the people who have those disabilities are real. When you use a scarred face as a visual shorthand for evil, or a wheelchair for a sense of fragility and powerlessness, or blindness for ignorance, you're not just telling a story about fictional characters, you're pushing a real idea about real people. Kubo also kind of ends up telling the audience, oh, you can be a little disabled, but not too much. You can be disabled enough to cause some annoyance in your daily life, but not so much that other people have to actively consider your existence when designing the world around you. But more strongly, it falls directly into the trap of using disability as a shorthand for morality. Kubo is blind in one eye. The movie tells us, perhaps not intentionally, but still, that Kubo is a good person despite this disability. That, should the Moon King succeed and take his other eye, he would cease to be so. The Moon King himself is blind. He is evil and cold and cruel. He is inhuman, both literally and figuratively. The kind of man who would curse his daughter's husband and steal an eye from his grandchild just to hold on to his own power. Simply because he cannot look into someone else's eyes and see their soul. Simply because he is disabled. It is not enough for him to become human in the end. That alone cannot cure him of his ills. Literally becoming human is not enough to grant him humanity. No, he needs to stop being so disabled. Otherwise, how could he possibly start anew and live a human life? This annoys, disappoints, and frustrates me. Because, as I said, I love this movie. But it cannot be divorced from its ableist tropes. There is no way to write around them, or correct them, or ignore them. They are at the very core of the entire story. The entire story hinges on blindness as a metaphor for coldness and ignorance of beauty and the goodness of humanity. Which, is not a good look. Just in general, maybe don't. Maybe stop and think that perhaps your villain should not be the villain literally just because he is disabled. Revolutionary idea, I know. Disability is not any kind of signifier of morality. There are absolutely horrible, terrible disabled people out there, and there are disabled people who are practically saints. Most of us fall somewhere in the middle. You know, like everyone does. So maybe just don't do this anymore. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you stick around. Bye!